Donald Trump has fired nearly 50% of the staff of the Department of Education, sending waves of shock and outrage through nearly 50% of the staff of the Department of Education. Maybe a few other people, I'm not sure. The president took the drastic step of canning 13,000 DOE employees after finding out that, one, the DOE has been spending more than $250 billion a year, which is some 4% of all federal spending, and two, American students' math and reading skills have plummeted into an abyss of mental darkness, and three, there's not really a clause in the Constitution that allows the president to have DOE employees executed, but only in the make-believe Constitution that Elon Musk doodled on a stall in a White House restroom as a joke. So firing these people turned out to be the best Trump could do. Outraged Democrats held a protest in a broom closet in the Capitol and spoke with a reporter from the Associated Press who was hiding there from Caroline Leavitt, lest she strike again. Democrat Congressman Fidel Mohammed Jihad told the reporter, quote, "This assault on our beloved education department has angered every single American in this broom closet. Trump is trying to ruin our schools and trap our children in ignorance and poverty, and that's the job of the teachers' unions. So not only is he a tyrant, he's actually a scab as well. Democrats should take to the streets to protest this action just as soon as they finish protesting the disempowerment of sexual psychopaths and drastic cuts to a vast network of waste and fraud that has taken us years of work to build. Trump is destroying America, or anyway, our version of America. Which, okay, isn't America, but we still call it America. So when we say Trump is destroying America, that is technically something that almost sounds true," unquote. Teachers Union President Randy Weingarten also protested the job cuts, appearing in an interview on CNN after rising from a flaming crevice in the earth in a yellow cloud of sulfurous smoke. Ms. Weingarten said, quote, "The Department of Education has spent literally hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars doing the all-important work of buying union support for Democrats. This money is carefully doled out to ensure that every child in America has a teacher whose union representative is driving a Mercedes after doing an hour of paperwork to prove their schools are following a federal recipe for success that has already raised the reading skills of eighth graders to a third grade level. Trump's secret plan is evil. And believe me, I know something about evil. I mean, just look at me. Look at my golden eyes. Trump's plan is to allow poor minority students to choose their own schools. That's insane. These children are languishing in a seething hell of illiteracy, damning them to a jobless future in which their only consolation will be the false comfort of drugs and children born out of wedlock, ultimately leading to yet another generation of crushing poverty. They're not educated enough to choose their own schools. We need to keep spending taxpayers' money until they're completely ignorant. Then at least when they have school choice, they might choose public schools," unquote. As if Trump's cuts to the DOE weren't bad enough, the president further outraged educators by arresting and threatening to deport a Palestinian Columbia student who led illegal demonstrations on college campuses in support of Hamas and who belongs to an organization dedicated to, quote, "the total eradication of Western civilization," unquote. CNN anchorwoman Shapley Nudnik objected to the move, saying, quote, "Just because a man shuts down a university and persecutes Jewish students to support mass terrorists, that doesn't make him a bad person. I'm afraid by having him arrested, this administration is distracting federal law enforcement officers from their important work of investigating parents who want to keep pornography out of elementary schools and spying on Catholics who attend Latin Mass," unquote. With that, the anchorwoman was surrounded by a sulfurous cloud of yellow smoke and dragged down into a flaming crevice in the earth where she joined the teachers union. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show. All right, we are back, laughing our way through weeping. From so much laughing, we have to stop weeping so we can laugh some more. Please go out and buy, I have it here actually. Yeah, I forgot to prop it up, but I'll show it to you. Please go out and buy The Kingdom of Cain. You will love this book, I promise you. The Kingdom of Cain, Finding God in the Literature of Darkness. It's a study of real life that have influenced the arts and what the arts have revealed about those. As I say, please pre-order it. It's really helpful to the sale of the book, and you will order it eventually because you will love it. That's why. Also, leave a comment wherever you're watching the show. If you're watching on DailyWire Plus, where you should be watching it, or on YouTube, where maybe you're forced to watch it because you're in prison or something like that, leave a comment. And if your comment is sufficiently hateful, bigoted, if it degrades people, demeans people, especially people smaller and weaker than yourself, we will read it on the air because that's what we do here. Today's comment is from J.D. McKay. Says Klavan keeps saying that the happiness montage joke is played out, but he told Mark Twain there's no ease in Klavan. I just make it look easy one time, and he's been writing that joke ever since. That's not actually true. It wasn't Mark Twain. It was a famous comedian, a comic writer. It was Aristophanes, and I did say that is true. But we are done. We are done with the Trump happiness montage. Now things are getting complex. It's an old joke. We've run it into the ground. Jeremy loves it. He took my God King joke when I called him God King, and he loves to take a joke too far. I think that's ridiculous. I'm not playing it anymore. We're going to stop right there, right now, and we're not playing it anymore, and we will instead get to today's episode, Seize the Day. Most of you who listen to the show regularly know that I stumbled into this kind of commenting on the news and on the events of the day, not because of politics, but because of the culture, because I came to feel after 9/11 that our culture had become so sick that we were actually sympathizing with the people who wanted to kill us. And I kept thinking, these are the people, our comedians, our news people, our, academics, they're all sympathizing with this horrible philosophy that wants us dead because we believe in freedom. And I thought, that's not a political problem. That's a cultural one. You can be on either side of the Democrat-Republican divide and still love your country and want to, fix things in different ways. But this was genuine self-hate. And this idea of taking back the culture, it suddenly occurred to me, is more urgent now than it was when I started. Because when I started, we had no chance. 20 years ago, when I started talking about this, people were looking at me on our side, on the right. They were looking at me like I was crazy. There was no chance of changing the culture. Now there is, and the chance is not going to last forever. This is an open window. There's a small passage of time in which we can seize back this culture. And I don't think we're doing it yet. And if we don't, then over the long run, as I keep saying, no matter how many elections we win, ultimately, the country will belong to its enemies, who we know. We know them because we see them on the air every day. The other day, and so part of this is the arts, obviously. We look at the movies, we look at the novels that are allowed to be published. You're hardly allowed to publish a novel if you're a white man now. It's like very, very difficult to get past this kind of wall, this absolute liquid wall of resistance to any idea but this left-wing globalist idea. So the other day I was doing one of my all-access things, and you should come to those. They're really fun. This one, we had a technical problem, but other than that, it was fun. And somebody asked me the question if I had any hope for Greta Gerwig's new film about the adaptation of the C.S. Lewis Narnia books, right, which are deeply Christian books. And Greta Gerwig is a very talented director who made Barbie. And I said, I don't know, Barbie was a total mess. I didn't think she had any idea what she was saying. It was all over the place. It was very beautiful to look at, but I just thought it was a ridiculous book. A ridiculous film. She couldn't say the things she wanted to say, I felt, and she was kind of stuck in this culture where she had to make feminist speeches that didn't really make any sense. And I was just saying on this, as I was answering this question, most artists, and especially visual artists, are not really thinking people. They're not really intellectual people. Only the very, very best of artists have a vision and an idea that they want to put forward that infuses their arts. I mean, I think Shakespeare has an idea of what the world is that he lets infuse his work, but I don't think most artists do. I think they're sucking their ideas from the culture around them, from the people who surround them. They get their ideas from the culture that surrounds them, and then they magnify those through art back into the world, so the world just keeps becoming more of that culture. That culture that surrounds them, that's you. That's the audience. That's me. That's us. It's all of us in America. That's where they get it from. So that means that in order to save the culture and restore the culture isn't just the job of artists in Hollywood, because they're going to do it ultimately, they're going to go blow with the cultural winds because they don't really have ideas of their own. They just have images and metaphors in their mind, which are very beautiful and very enlightening, but they can get poisoned by a poison culture. So this is now up to you. It's up to everybody to change the culture so that the arts will change in time, and then the arts will magnify better ideas than they are now. So that's kind of what I'm going to talk about the news, but I want to put it in that context. You know what's not as smart as you might think it is? Browsing the internet with zero protection. It's like driving a car without insurance while texting, blindfolded, in a hailstorm. Sure, you might consider yourself a careful internet user, but have you seen the digital landscape lately? It's basically the Wild West, except instead of bandits, it's hackers trying to steal your banking information. Every single time you connect to one of those free Wi-Fi networks at your favorite overpriced coffee shop or that suspiciously sticky hotel lobby where I hang out, your data is basically a piñata waiting to be smashed open. And you don't need to be some elite hacker to do it. Literally any teenager with some cheap equipment can access your passwords, credit card details, and more. Your personal data is worth up to $1,000 to hackers on the dark web. Someone is willing to pay actual money for your embarrassing search history. ExpressVPN creates an encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet that would take a hacker with a supercomputer over 1 billion years to crack. By then, I figure I'll probably be doing something else entirely. I use it all the time. I use it on all my devices. It's easy because all you got to do is press one button and you are protected. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/Klavan. That's expressvpn.com/Klavan to find out how you can get up to 4 extra months free. expressvpn.com/Klavan. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, how do you spell VPN? It's KLAVAN, which is a little confusing, but that's just the way it is. Chapter 1, this magic moment. And so I want to emphasize what it is I was watching this week. It made me feel like this is really important. This is something we have to do now. We have to do in this moment. I've said before that Trump is like the lineman, the big heavy guy on the offensive line of a football team who opens up the opposing line so the quarterback can run through. And the quarterback is the people. It's we the people, because we're the sovereigns of this country. And you probably saw some wonderful things happening this week. Mike Johnson and a unified Republican House actually outmaneuvered Chuck Schumer. So he had to keep the government open and give them a bill, a spending resolution that isn't great, but it actually does cut the government a little bit. So the Democrats are really in the wilderness. They had an internal poll. This was reported by Alina Schneider at Politico. It says the Democrat Party's brand is in rough shape in the congressional battlegrounds. Nearly 2 months into the second Donald Trump administration, a majority of voters in battleground House districts still believe Democrats in Congress are, quote, more focused on helping other people than people like me. According to an internal poll, this is the Democrats' poll, right? This is what they're looking at, conducted by the Democratic group Navigator Research. Among independents, just 27% believe Democrats are focused on helping them, compared with 55% who said they're focused on others. And we were talking about that last week, right? Who does it serve when you're making a big fuss over transgenderism? Who does it serve when you're opening the borders? It doesn't serve the American people. And so these people are seeing what in fact is there. Obviously, the agenda of the Democrats is not meant to help America. It's meant to do something else. And here is Van Jones, who is often the last honest man on the left. He does these things. He says all this leftist stuff, and you think the guy is a dope or just a robot. And then suddenly he just comes out with something that is so honest and obviously true that you sort of have to like him for it. Here is Van Jones, cut 1.
Look, man, we're screwed. I mean, we don't know. No, Democrats don't know what to do. This is a nightmare. Somebody like Donald Trump, we thought we'd at least have, Hakeem Jeffries in the speaker's chair to hold him back if we didn't have Kamala in there to do the right thing. Listen, the Democratic Party is going through a massive set of internal crises. You have a party that got trapped 2 ways. One, defending a broken status quo that nobody likes because they thought that Donald Trump was going to make it worse. But when you're defending the status quo, you're going to lose. And then offending most people in the country, calling everybody sexist and racist and transphobic and every other name, and then saying, please follow us. That's not a good strategy, folks. Defending a broken status quo and offending most of the country turns out is not as popular as my party thought it was going to be.
So now you think the thing is, Kurt Schlichter wrote today, and Kurt Schlichter's columns are always great. I really like them, but he wrote today that the Democrats can't get out of this because they're trying to protect their base. But this is one time when I actually disagree with Kurt, because if the Democrats were being cynical, if they were just being political, if they were just playing politics and just looking for power, they would change. They would look at the polls and say, oh, the people don't like this. Trump does this all the time. He'll say, I can't do that because the people don't want me to do it, so I'm not going to take that political hit. They would look at their polls and say, the people don't like us. We'll never get back in power. We should change. We're going to change our opinions. But no, the Democrats have principles. They believe in something. Here's a story. I mean, we can question what they believe, but I don't think we can question the fact that this is really the hills. These are the hills they want to die on. Here's a story from NBC News. And I want to just take this apart for a minute. A House hearing ended abruptly Tuesday after an exchange between a Republican and a Democratic committee member over the GOP chair's misgendering Representative Sarah McBride. Sarah McBride is a man who wants to be a woman and dresses as a woman. At the hearing, hosted by the Foreign Affairs Subcommittee on Europe, Representative Keith Self, a Republican from Texas, recognized McBride, the Democrat from Delaware, to speak and misgendered her in the process. McBride is the first openly trans member of Congress. So here's a picture of this scene. This is a video of that scene. It's cut 2.
I now recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Mr. Chairman, could you repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House, and I'm simply...
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman? Would you repeat what you just said when you introduced a duly elected representative from the United States of America? Please.
I will. The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order. Mr. Chairman, have you no decency? I've come to know you a little bit, but this is not decent.
We will continue this
You
hearing.
will not continue it with me unless you introduce a duly elected representative the right way.
This hearing is adjourned.
Okay, now just to follow the story to the end before I comment on it, Michael Knowles had Congressman Self on his show. And you may think to yourself, how did Knowles get somebody like Congressman Self on his show? And it's because they said to Knowles, would you like to interview Self? And Knowles said, of course, oh yes, Self is my favorite person. And then he was disappointed to find out it was actually a different Self than he usually is referring to. So here is Congressman Keith Self, the guy who, quote unquote, misgendered Sarah McBride. Here's his reasoning about why he did that.
Well, I'm a retired Green Beret. I'm not even sure what all the fuss is about. I mean, he is allowed to live his life. In fact, I spent 25 years on active duty defending his right to live his life as he chooses. But I don't have to participate in his fantasy.
Okay. So he's for freedom. He fought for freedom. He was out on active duty fighting for the freedom of Sarah McBride to dress up in a girl's outfit and the freedom of people to speak the language so that it describes the world as they see it. That is a very, very central freedom, far more important than allowing guys to wear dresses. It is most important that we be able, when we have free speech, that speech has to be used to describe the world as we see it. We have to be able to tell the truth as we know it. No one has an absolute lock on the truth, but each of us has a vision of the truth, and we have to be able to speak that truth, or free speech means nothing. So Keith Self was, as a Green Beret and now as a congressman, was working for freedom. That's his vision. Now, let's talk about NBC. I read that story from NBC about how he was misgendering. It's a major news network, right? It's owned by Comcast, which owns NBC Universal. Now, Comcast has a vast network of working arrangements with the Chinese Communist Party, and it won't talk about it. It's very secretive about it whenever people ask about it. But they have a theme park in China that they run together. They own together with the Chinese Party, and they make a lot of money off that. They were criticized during the 2022 Beijing Olympics because they soft-soaped the oppression in China, the destruction of the Uyghurs, the threatening of Tibet, the silencing, the using computers and apps to silence people who disagree or stand up to the President Xi. And they've been very cagey about all these things. And you remember, I mean, just for comic relief, you remember the actor John Cena, and muscle-bound, action actor, apologizing abjectly to the Chinese because he called Taiwan a country, which it is, and he was doing a publicity tour for Fast and Furious 9, and this is a big deal because Fast and Furious 7 made more money in China than it made in America. So he didn't want to endanger, his studio did not want him to endanger the profits that they were taking in from China. And this is the NBC Universal, which owns NBC, where NBC News is reporting, right? And here's just a clip of that. Senna actually speaks Mandarin, I think. He says, I made a mistake. I have to say right now, it's so important. I love and respect China and Chinese people. I'm so sorry for my mistake. So that's for calling Taiwan, the nation of Taiwan, which China believes is part of their nation. That's for calling it a country. So it's amazing that Senna could have so much muscle and no backbone, but that's what he's Han, so sorry. So these guys, NBC News, NBC, Comcast, have interests with our enemies. They're a completely unreliable news source when it comes certainly to that, but maybe to other things as well. And they write a story saying this former Green Beret, right, the American Green Beret, misgendered a man who says he's a woman by calling him a man. Misgendered. He actually misgendered him, but obviously he didn't misgender him at all. He called him a man because there's absolutely no evidence that men and women can change their sexes. He wants to be free. He wants Sarah McBride to be free. But not Han, NBC. They do not want them to be free. They want you to toe the party line, which is the party lie. They say it's misgendering someone to speak the truth about them. So that's NBC. And think about this for a minute, okay? The Democrat Party is sinking. People do not believe that they represent them because they think they represent their own interests, not the American people. And they embrace these crazy ideas. And transgenderism, I don't even like to go after transgenderism because we do it so much, but, it's emblematic of the crazy ideas. It's emblematic of their anti-reality ideas and their anti-freedom ideas. But this cultural nexus, Chinese communists, Hollywood, the news media, insisting that a Green Beret lies about what he sees or be told that he has misspoken, he has misgendered, he has done wrong, he's guilty of wrong think. The Democrats have not backed down even a little because they don't represent the American people. They are wrapped in the warm embrace of a globalist perspective that includes tyrants in China and tyrants in Iran, and basically sets peace and unity and diversity above the principles that made America great. Right now, this is not a conspiracy theory. I don't think the NBC is filled with Chinese agents. I don't think they're Chinese spies. I think it's that they are immersed in this concept that includes doing business with and kowtowing to China because it's a globalist perspective. It is a globalist perspective. And listen, we live in a global world. It's not that we shouldn't respect our neighbors. It's not that we shouldn't have trade with our neighbors. It's simply that as a nation, we are preserving an idea that doesn't come around very often. This freedom idea, you saw it in Greece. You saw it in Rome for a little while. That Greece died out very quickly. Rome was not a republic. For its entire lifespan, it became an empire and lost its freedoms. You see it kind of come out. You have after the fall of Rome, you had 1,000 years of darkness before this little spark of freedom grew again in places like England. And now it's here and it's a light, but only here. It's not everywhere. It's not the same in Iran. It's not the same in Cuba. It's not the same in China or Russia. And we are trying to preserve it here, which by doing, we have to do that by holding our borders. We have to do it by protecting our ideas. But this is a belief system that they are immersed in, so it doesn't bother them. The guy at Comcast or NBC Universal or NBC News does not wake up in the middle of the night and say, "No, I should have mentioned the Uyghurs," because he's part of that whole construct. So my only point about this is, if the Democrats did not mean for this to be our future, they would give it up because they're not very popular. They would change to a more popular idea. They would at least be as intelligent as Barack Obama and lie, but they're too convinced that this is righteousness. So when artists go to make movies, when artists go to write novels, when publishers go to publish novels, they are immersed in this. They think this is the culture. In the same way Mitch McConnell thinks the New York Times is the people, they are wrapped up in this culture, and it depends on you. It depends on you to change it. So they know what they believe. And my question is, what do you believe? Do you know what you believe? Can you say what you believe? And can you live by it? Balance of nature fruits and veggies. It's the most convenient way to get whole fruits and vegetables daily, especially if you've focused on creating a healthier, happier lifestyle. Nature is good at giving us the nutrients we need through our fruits and vegetables, so Balance of Nature takes fruits and vegetables, they freeze dry them, turn them into a powder, and then put them into a capsule. You take your fruit and veggie capsules every day, and then your body knows what to do with them. Balance of Nature is just one ingredient of a balanced lifestyle and has no intention of replacing a healthy diet, exercise, sleep, or any other healthy habits. It's intended to be used in concert with other healthy habits. I love Balance of Nature because I don't have to stuff a lot of fruits and vegetables in my mouth and get it all in my beard and all that stuff. I can just take the capsules with me when I'm on the road, and I know I'm getting the daily fruits and veggies I need. Go to balanceofnature.com, use promo code Klavan for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. Plus, get a free bottle of fiber and spice. That's balanceofnature.com, promo code, how do you spell it? KLAVAN. Chapter 2, Hit the Road, Jack. The other example of the left's dedication to its principles is the reaction to this guy, Mahmoud Khalil's arrest and possible deportation, right? Khalil is a Syrian-born Palestinian with an American green card for some reason, who is instrumental in the Columbia demonstrations, sometimes violent, but always shutting down classes and making demands on all this. And I don't think he's even a student there. And he was a grad student there, but I don't think he is anymore. Shut down the college, terrorized Jewish students. They had places on campus that were called Zionist-free zones where Jewish students couldn't go. The Jewish students were hiding out. They were afraid in our country, in America, at Columbia University, an Ivy League university. While Columbia sat on their hands, some of these people were arrested, but they were immediately released. Now Trump is fighting back, that evil Trump. He is canceling $400 million in grants and contracts to Columbia on the basis of the fact that they're not following federal anti-discrimination laws because the Jews at their college have to hide out to save their lives. They have to be afraid of their lives, right? To keep out of the Zionist-free zone. And now Columbia is responding to this. They get, when you go after their pocketbooks, they're not happy about it. $400 million is a lot of money. They are expelling and suspending some of the students who caused the trouble. But they're also in this massive internal battle where the STEM professors, the science guys, the engineers and all that, and the people in the hard sciences are fighting with the people in, the liberal arts, because it's the people in the liberal arts who have poisoned the minds of these students. Most of these students going out in these demonstrations, they couldn't tell you where Israel was on a map. They don't know the difference between Israel and the Palestinians. They have no idea. When they say from the river to the sea, they don't know they're talking genocide. They have no idea. They don't know what river. They don't know what sea. They have no idea what they're talking about. They're idiots, but they have been trained and programmed by their liberal arts professors. And the STEM professors, the science professors, a lot of whom are Jews, are saying, wait a minute, maybe this, there's some of these grants that they're taking away. Here's a Jewish scientist at Columbia working on research to cure cancer, and his grant could get canceled because somebody who's teaching English literature he's never read and hates anyway, is teaching their students to hate the Jews and to hate Israel and to hate America. Because, Khalil, who was the lead negotiator in some of these protests, he was representing Columbia University apartheid divest, right? This accuses Israel, the only country in the Middle East that basically treats all of its citizens the same, no matter what their religion, no matter which sex, whether they're gay or not. They all have rights. The Muslims have rights there that they don't have in Muslim countries, and Jews and Christians have rights that they certainly don't have in a lot of Muslim countries, right? They call that apartheid. these people, and they wanted the universities to divest. They want people to take their money out of Israel to basically have private sanctions of Israel. So their leaders, the leaders of this CUAD, have written that their fight against Israel is only part of a general fight against America. American colonialism bad, Western colonialism bad. They praise the October 7th massacre as a crowning achievement, and they said they want to achieve their goals by any means necessary, including armed resistance. This is what who's Khalil is negotiating on behalf of. Here's David Hogg. You remember him from the shooting. He's now the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee. Here's him reacting to Khalil's arrest and possible deportation. Cut 5.
This is a blatant violation of the Constitution. This is a blatant violation of our rights. And this is a threat to Americans everywhere. Regardless of whether or not you're a Democrat, Republican, independent, or otherwise, all of us need to be extremely concerned about this. Donald Trump is trying to shut down young people and stop us from speaking out because he, like all other authoritarians, believe that they have to shut down freedom of speech, freedom of expression, so that they can rule like a king.
Now you may say David Hogg is an idiot, but this is actually a big deal. You see Glenn Greenwald doing the same thing. They have this high-minded argument, and they say things that just aren't true. I mean, the Supreme Court has repeatedly ruled that foreign nationals and students don't have all the rights of other Americans. A green card, when you get a green card, you have to disavow terrorism. It says an alien is inadmissible, quote unquote, inadmissible, if he or she endorses or espouses terrorist activity or persuades others to endorse or espouse terrorist activity or is a representative of a political, social, or other group that endorses or espouses terrorist activity. Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State, who, again, I got to say, is doing a great job. I've not always been a big Marco Rubio fan, but I am now. He's doing a terrific job. He explained it like this, as cut 7.
You are here as a visitor. We can deny you that visa. We can deny you that if you tell us when you apply, hi, I'm trying to get into the United States on a student visa. I am a big supporter of Hamas, a barbaric group that kidnaps children, that teenage girls, that takes hostages, that allows them to die in captivity, that returns more bodies than live hostages. If you tell us that you are in favor of a group like this, and if you tell us when you apply for your visa, and by the way, I intend to come to your country as a student and rile up all kinds of anti-Jewish student, anti-Semitic activities, I intend to shut down your universities. If you told us all these things when you applied for a visa, we would deny your visa. I hope we would. If you actually end up doing that, once you're in this country on such a visa, we will revoke it. And if you end up having a green card, not citizenship, but a green card as a result of that visa while you're here in those activities, we're going to kick you out.
Now, this is going through the courts. There's a question of whether he has to go to an immigration court before his green card can be revoked. And, whatever due process is, I'm in favor of due process. And it doesn't bother me to have somebody say, yeah, kick him out, but have due process. But what bothers me is they agree with him. All their arguments are garbage because they really agree with him. Glenn Greenwald agrees with him. He agrees that America is the problem. David Hogg agrees that America is the problem. He wants this guy here. He doesn't care about free speech. We know they don't care about free speech. They were censoring us right and left when they had the power, when Biden was president. They want to censor us. They want, they call what we say hate speech. So again, I have no problem with saying, hey, make sure he gets all the due process that he deserves, then throw him out. I mean, right? Everybody should be saying, throw this guy out. But this is what they believe, and they're sticking to it. Even though they're unpopular, they will not change. They believe that the free nation of Israel is the problem because it represents the West and the countries where homosexuals and women are oppressed and where the poor can't get a break at all, and the mullahs keep all the oil money and all this stuff. Those are the countries they want to preserve. And they want another one run by the Palestinians, and they want Israel gone, because it is a Western free country. So again, what do we believe? What do we believe? See, we can't affect the culture by arguing with them. In fact, arguing with them just gives them oxygen. Whenever somebody says to me, you should debate, Nick Fuentes or something like that, I thought, I don't need to debate. There's no debate over racial hatred. I put up an X post, like Mr. Innocent Guy. I put up an X post. I got tired of listening to people on my X feed arguing with anti-Semites because the anti-Semites are idiots. Some of them have high IQs, but they're trapped inside that ideology and it makes them idiots. So I put up a post just saying, stop arguing with them. They're morons. They say Christ is king and America first, but then they support Iran, which is an Islamist government that wants to destroy America. So I said the only difference between me and the people saying Christ is king is I believe Christ is king. That's the big difference. And I said these people are just, they're stupid as bricks, and that you can't argue with them. So I had a long work day yesterday. I must have worked like 14 hours without stopping, without looking up, without eating. And I look up and this post has like 1 million hits. It's been looked at 1 million times and it started like World War III on X. And I said to my friend, Jonathan, hey, I said, did I start this? He says, yes. Yes. So here's the thing. I've said before, Jew hatred, same on the left, same on the right. It's a hatred of God. I'm sorry. I have the receipts. I've written about it on my Substack, The New Jerusalem. I can show you where the people are saying we hate the Jews because they sent us Jesus, who has made us less than what we could have been if we'd just been powerful Aryans, right? We can't win if we let these people speak for us. If these are the only people who know what they believe and who know, see, the people who believe in Jew hatred, right? They hate God, and so do the people who believe in transgenderism. They don't want like creation. They don't think that women should be women, right? They want to live in a world, whether you're capitalist or socialist, women are a problem. Women as mothers and as homemakers, they're a problem because they sacrifice profits to do this central work of humankind, which is creating humankind. And you don't just create them in your body, you create them in their souls when you raise them. And women do this, especially. They are made to do this. And the question is it's not really whether Sarah McBride can become a woman. He obviously can't. That just can't happen. The real question is Matt Walsh's question, what is a woman? And it's not just somebody who has XY genes. It's somebody who does a thing and was made to do a thing and that we believe in because we believe in creation. We believe that the creation is good, that God made a good creation, and we are meant to be free in that creation. And there are women who are going to choose not to be mothers, not to be homemakers. That's part of freedom. But still, this is that central role that women have that make them, the word material comes from the word mater. And if you are immaterial, right, you don't exist, you have no materiality, you don't have a mother. This is why God has to have a mother in order to be incarnate in the world, because he wants to go from immaterial to material, and you have to pass through the mater. That's a magic thing. Sarah McBride knows nothing about that and is not made for that and is not created over thousands of years of evolutionary change for those things. We believe in something that is essentially good about creation, and they don't. They do not. They think we are here. We're woke. We are woke because we have awakened from this stupid idea to find that, no one has ever understood morality before. No one has seen injustice before. No one has understood the racial injustice before. And we are going to fix all that by turning morality on its head, just like Dostoevsky said they would once they lost their faith in God. We have to be able to state what we think. We have to be able to know what we think, and we have to be able to live what we think if we're going to take this culture back by spreading this into the culture so that artists are also affected by it. As you know, I almost never sleep, but almost is not never. Sometimes I really do have to sleep and I need to fall asleep. And that's why I want to tell you about Beam's Dream Powder. Beam is proudly founded in America and run by people who share our values, namely hard work, integrity, and delivering results. This stuff is science-backed. It's healthy nighttime blend packed with ingredients shown to improve sleep so you can wake up refreshed and ready to take on the day. Dream is made with a powerful blend of all natural ingredients, reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin. I have looked them all up and they all are shown to help sleep. It's tested for high quality efficacy and formulated to ease your body into rest, supporting all 4 stages of the sleep cycle to help you fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. Beam has already improved over 17.5 million nights of sleep, helping people across the country wake up and feel their best. Here's our deal. Beam is giving my listeners the ultimate Patriot discount of 40% off. Try their best-selling Dream Powder and get up to 40% off for a limited time. Go to shopbeam.com/Klavan and use code Klavan at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Klavan and use code Klavan for up to 40% off. Support an American company, invest in yourself, and start getting your best sleep tonight and learn how to spell Klavan It's Klavan, no E's, in Cleveland. Chapter 3, The Art of Making Art. One of the questions I've been asked only a million times in the last 20 years is there some inherent reason why right-wingers don't become artists? Now, I believe that a lot of it is just that the doors have been shut in our faces. We get thrown out of Hollywood. We can't get into Hollywood. We can't get into publishing, and people will not say what we want. But I also think there is something that keeps people who are stuck in ideologies from making good art. That's why these sterile, motherless, godless beliefs of the left have ultimately left us with an art scene that just stinks. It's just awful. The movies have been awful. The music's been awful. The novels have not been that great. Present company accepted. And this has been a dark period in the arts because of the taking over of ideology. But there's ideology on the right too, and we get a very immersed in our ideology because we're the minority ideology and we're fighting so hard to state it and tell people what it is. So now in this moment of Donald Trump, there's some leeway. The Wall Street Journal wrote what I thought was kind of a dishonest article saying Hollywood pivots to programming for Trump's America. TV shows like Shifting Gears and Duck Dynasty resonate with flyover country while fewer shows take on the president. And they have a quote from Tim Allen in a joke where he says he likes they're trying to drop the Minutemen and his teaching the Minutemen in his kid's school. And he says, what's more inclusive than a dude wearing a wig, stockings, little high heels, holding onto a rifle? And they say, well, this shows you that they're playing to the Trump people. But you know what? There have always been shows like this, Blue Bloods. There have always been a couple of shows. They don't get any press. They don't get any reviews. People love them, but they don't ever get any reviews. And most of these shows that were in development, as the Wall Street Journal does admit in the last line of their article, were actually in development before Trump was elected. In order to change the arts, our best artists have to talk to us. Art trickles down it trickles up and down. The stuff that's mass market draws an audience, and then great artists come to that audience because they want some of that love and some of that money, and they want the popularity, and so they start writing things for those artists, but they write it at a higher level. So I made this point when the Oscars were on, and I don't think I mentioned it on the show. I wrote about it for the DailyWire, but I was thinking back to 1987, right? 1987 is the Reagan Revolution, and we went through hell. If you think it's bad, it was bad during Biden. I mean, the Carter stagflation, inflation was out of control. The economy was stagnant. The Soviets were really taking over the world. They were moving through Africa. They were moving through the Middle East. And Carter was absolutely dazzled. He didn't know what to do. And Reagan took it over. And very quickly, he turned it around while like Trump, he was being called a fascist and a Nazi and all this. So he turned it around. He brought our economy back and Wall Street soared. And it created this kind of Wall Street culture that everybody was talking about. Two artists addressed this, more than that, but two really good artists. One was Oliver Stone, a left-leaning guy. He wrote and made a movie called Wall Street with Michael Douglas. And Michael Douglas was kind of the bad guy in it, but he was also a fascinating, demonic character who expressed what Oliver Stone thought was the Reagan-era ethos. This is cut 8.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Greed in all of its forms. Greed for life, for money, for love, knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind, and greed, you mark my words, will not only save Teldar Paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA.
So you're supposed to both be horrified that anyone would say this, but also see that he kind of has a point. Now, so that's Oliver Stone, a leftist, letting a guy he obviously dislikes and obviously wants you to be horrified, but letting him have his say, right? He has a point. Now, there was a right-leaning artist, Tom Wolfe, who also wrote a very fine novel called Bonfire of the Vanities. Now, this was made into a crap movie, but I did find one scene that actually comes right out of the book. And this is where his protagonist, who's played by Tom Hanks in the film, don't watch the film, it's terrible, but Tom Hanks is in the film, is a bond dealer. So he is also on Wall Street, and his nasty wife, his kind of spoiled wife, explains to his daughter right in front of him what it is that daddy does. So this is cut 9.
Now, just imagine that a bond is a slice of cake. Now, you didn't bake that cake. But every time you hand a slice of that cake to somebody else, a little bit comes off. Little crumbs fall off.
Really? Crumbs, huh?
And you are allowed to keep those crumbs.
Many a man has sold his soul for those little crumbs.
Yes, and that's what Daddy does.
That's what Daddy does. He sells his soul for crumbs. And so, she's living the life, but he's, Tom Wolfe, a conservative, a libertarian conservative, I would say, is criticizing this culture as Oliver Stone is too. And he says many things in Bonfire of the Vanities, but he's being complex. Why? Why is Ronald Reagan saved this country, and he defeated the slave state of the Soviet Union. It's become very popular to talk about all the things Reagan failed to do, but he is one of the greatest liberators. He's the greatest liberator since Lincoln, really. I mean, he freed all these people who were enslaved by the Soviet Union by bringing it down and by outsmarting them, with the help of the Pope and with the help of Margaret Thatcher. But still, he's the guy who deserved the Nobel Prize. So why is a right-winger like Tom Wolfe, kind of criticizing him? It's because life is complex and life is what art is about, right? Capitalism is the greatest thing ever as an economic engine. It creates wealth, it inspires creativity, it creates greatness and, through competition. It also ruins everything. It also makes us, kind of hollow consumer people. If consumers aren't buying things, our economy is going, you feel obligated to buy garbage. The less you buy, the happier you will probably be. That's the Wordsworth line, getting and spending, we lay waste our powers, nothing we see in nature that is ours, right? This is why socialism is attractive to young people. And if you don't have artistic wisdom, if you don't have art that recognizes that complexity, you wind up with Ayn Rand garbage. You wind up with Ayn Rand garbage, and you know what's going to happen? Your kids are going to say to you just what that little girl is going to say to her father when she grows up: you're a greedy, empty-souled person who has sold your soul for crumbs. That's what they're going to say, because in a way, it will be true. It's not that you shouldn't take advantage of the beauty of capitalism. It's you should understand that everything we do has two sides to it, and that is the way that art addresses complex things. I was complaining about that film, Anora, that won the Academy Award, that it was basically, even though it had an idea that a woman yearns for someone, a marriage in which she'll be cherished and cared for, it has so much sex in it in the first 40 minutes that basically its message was that this is normal. Sex work, as they call it, prostitution is normal. They were just normalizing sex work. And my son, Spencer Klavan, no relation, said, you want to see this really done well, watch this Italian film, Nights of Cabiria, by Federico Fellini. So I did watch it, and it's a beautiful movie. You really should watch it if you can. It's on Amazon Prime. You can get it for like $3. And it's about a prostitute, not one single sex scene in it. And you love this woman and you sympathize with this woman. And there's critical scenes about the Catholic Church in it, but at the same time, there's no criticism of Jesus, who actually kind of appears as an invisible character in the movie. And it shows you this woman is degraded by what she does. And again, not a single sex scene in it, but she also is a person in the world. And we also owe her our love. That's art. That is art. Even if you see the film The Wolf of Wall Street, which is chock full of sex, it has Margot Robbie, one of the most beautiful actors in the world, has an absolute nude scene that is like branded on my poor old man imagination, like burned into it because he's so beautiful. At the end of that movie, watching this guy screw everything in sight and take every drug in sight, the one thing you can think is, I never want to live that life, because Scorsese is a Catholic. He may be a lapsed Catholic, I'm not sure, but he remembers that this is not the way to go. So you can make all kinds of movies that say all kinds of things. And if we don't let go of our ideology, we're stuck in this Ayn Rand cesspool, and it's just bad art. I mean, her books are bad. Her ideas, which she takes from other economists, are pretty good, some of her economic ideas, but her ideas about humanity are stupid. And if you're don't understand humanity, you can't make art. This is my plan. Whenever I go and give speeches before rich people, they always come up to me and say, what can we give you money for? And I would say, no, I don't know. I've always earned my money. I sell what I do and I get paid for it. And that's how I make my money. I don't know what you can give me money for. But now I have to say, if somebody were to slap me with several, $20 million or something, what I would do is I would build a place where we could go small. See, too much conservative art is like Christian rock. It's actually stealing a genre that hates it and imitating it. Rock music is about sex, and it really does not like Christianity inherently. I'm not saying the artists don't. I'm just saying inherently that kind of music is really about sex, just like a Nora inherently is about sex. And when you just imitate it, Christianity, if it were alive, if it were full, if it were doing what it should be doing, would be making its own art, would be saying, yeah, we don't even care about rock music. We're going to make music of our own. Same thing is true of us. We shouldn't be making superhero movies. We shouldn't be making big blockbusters because we can't. We haven't got the means to do it. What I would do is I would build a site in which people could actually make small films, little films, a dozen of them. And you could come and watch these films and get some ideas you wouldn't get otherwise. Maybe shocking ideas, maybe ideas that I don't like, but still ideas that show you the world from a perspective that understands what the moral order is, and yet also understands the complexity of human life. I'll talk about that just a little more in a second. Did you know scammers can steal your home with just a few forged documents? The FBI calls it house stealing because they're just not that creative. But criminals forge your signature, use a fake notary stamp, and file with your local recorder's office to transfer your home title. Then they can take out loans against your equity or sell your property without you even knowing until collection notices arrive. When was the last time you checked your home title? If you're like me, the answer is never, which is exactly what scammers count on. That's why you got to trust Home Title Lock. Their $1 million triple lock protection helps keep your home and equity safe. Here's what you get: immediate 24/7 monitoring of your property, urgent alerts if there are any changes, and if fraud should happen, their U.S.-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud and restore your title at no additional cost. Here is the best part. I have teamed up with Home Title Lock to give you a free title history report so you can find out if you're already a victim and get access to your personal title expert, a $250 value just for signing up. Go to HomeTitleLock.com and use my promo code Klavan250 or click on the link in the description, and make sure to check out the $1 million triple lock protection details when you get there. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code Klavan250 to get the protection and peace of mind you deserve. Final chapter, like a prayer. So at the Substack I do with Spencer called the newjerusalem.substack.com, we've been talking about Lent. It's Lent, where you give up stuff, you fast, and you maybe give up something that was troubling you or whatever. And I was writing recently, it only suddenly kind of occurred to me that you do this for a reason, which is you want to empty yourself out. You want to detach from the things that you desire and let God fill you up, right? It's like Paul said, it's no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. You're trying to get a little closer to that state. And I was thinking, it's funny. The reason I never had this thought before is because it's never something I actually wanted before. I did not want to give myself up. I could have said I did. I could have said, yes, I want God to fill me up, but I would have been lying. And we all do that from time to time. But I've changed. I mean, God has changed me. The changer of things has changed me. And the things of the world mean a lot less to me than they used to me. Now, every writer wants to be read. When I sacrificed good reviews and awards, and I knew I was doing it when I started to speak my mind honestly. I told you before, I looked in the mirror and said, you're never going to win. I'd won multiple awards. I thought, you're never going to win another award. Can you live with that? And I thought I could, but it's been painful. But, the pain is kind of wearing off. I mean, look, every writer wants to be read. I want you to go out and pre-order Kingdom of Cain because I know it's beautiful and I want you to love it. I made it. I'm proud of it. And I know it's beautiful and I want you to love it. It's what I do. It's what I give to you. But the awards and the reviews are sort of fading away. The pain of that is fading away. I care a lot less because, as I tell you, I'm on a mission from God. Now, the German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer said a famous line. He said, you can do what you want. He was arguing against free will. He said, you can do what you want, but you can't choose what you want. So he's arguing you don't really have free will. He was making the point that if you're, say you're gay, you can decide not to take gay action, but you're still going to want what you want. So you're not really free. But I don't agree with this. I mean, I get it. I get why the truth of it, but I disagree with it. Everybody always talks about being authentic, but a lot of times at Lent, I've given up something that really gave me pleasure, and I've never done it again. Because when I gave it up, I suddenly found that there was another me under the person who took pleasure in that I liked better. I like that person better. So yeah, I might still want to have like that third drink, but I don't do it anymore because I like this me better. I mean, now I hardly drink at all, but like, that came upon me by giving something up and discovering that I didn't need it. That's why. So there's different authentic parts of you, and you can choose which authentic part you want to be. That's why when people write to me and they say, I'm struggling with my porn addiction, I think, why don't you stop struggling with your porn addiction and just stop watching porn? See if that works. Because that instead of struggling with an addiction as if it were some other thing, okay, so you like watching porn, don't do it anymore and see if your life gets better, and focus on the things that get better. So you can choose to sort of be other things. When I've faced things that might be frightening, I choose to put my fear away. I choose to put my fear away and do the thing that I think should be done, right? That's how you do that. So I don't feel my fear. I have to experience my fear. No, I put it away. I bury it. I suppress it. Now, when I go before God, though, when I pray, I give him everything, right? What's the point, right? What's the point of lying, right? Lying to God is like a good idea. No, there's no point, right? So when you pray, I think you shouldn't be afraid to say anything. You don't have to be pious before God. He knows what you're thinking. He's not fooled by that. So it's ridiculous, right? So, I might say to myself, I'm sitting around worrying about this, but Jesus said, don't worry. And so I'm going to stop worrying. I'm just going to put my worries aside. I'm just going to feel the blessing of life, and I'm going to go forward. But you can't go before God and say, I'm not worried, because the worry is there too. So you want to give all of yourself to God in the hopes that he will touch it and bless it and transform it. When I live, I put things away, and I don't do things that I think I shouldn't do. And I try to enjoy the person who doesn't do those things. But in prayer, I say, I give it everything. That's what art is like. That is why artists have such a hard time. I've said this before, that art can be a very difficult and lacerating thing to do, because you keep alive certain things in yourself in order to use them. I might have an absolutely disgusting thought. I'm sure that never happens to you, but I might have an absolutely disgusting thought. Instead of suppressing it, I remember it, right? I remember it because I'm going to give that thought to some character in a book who will be possibly more comfortable with it than I am. But art is where you show life whole, but you show it in the context of the moral system. And I know I use this example all the time, but it's an important one. When Macbeth says life is meaningless, it's not because Shakespeare thinks life is meaningless. It's because Macbeth has severed himself from the moral order. And so his life has become meaningless. So you see, Shakespeare lets Macbeth speak with more beauty than almost any character ever when he makes that, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day. It's a beautiful, beautiful nihilistic speech. But it's not Shakespeare talking, it's Macbeth talking, because he gives us everything. He gives us all of life. And so we shouldn't be afraid of movies that don't end well, that show us things that are disgusting, that show us things that are harmful and all this stuff. And I don't want you to sit around reading things that make you unhappy. There are things that I don't look at. When I was a kid, I looked at everything because I wanted to be an artist. So I looked at every single kind of art. But now, like a horror movie, I just don't want those images in my head anymore. I just don't need it. And I know what's going to happen. So it's nothing. If it's incredibly original, I may go look at it, but I'm not going to look at it just because I need to see that anymore. But still, you have to be able to look at art. I mean, even a film like Casablanca, the greatest movie ever made, it doesn't have any graphic sex scenes, but it's about an act of adultery that essentially saves the world. Two people do something incredibly selfish that they have to do before they can move on and become the great people that they're going to become. That's the way God sees it, right? Because God sees it all at one time. He doesn't just see the act of adultery. He sees the place that it's going. I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying that the sins that we commit and the sorrow and the repentance that we feel are all happening, as far as God is concerned, are all happening at the same moment. So look, this is the moment. This is the moment. I've never seen anything quite like this before in my entire life, even under Reagan. This is a moment when we have seen the left. The left has exposed themselves. We have seen exactly what they believe. We know they hate creation. We know they hate the West. We know they hate freedom. We know they hate women. I think they hate women more than even people who openly feel like they hate women. I can't tell the difference between Andrew Tate and somebody who thinks, oh, if I dress up as a woman, real women disappear. What's the difference between the two of them? Nothing. And what's the difference between a Jew hater on the left and a Jew hater on the right? Absolutely nothing. These are people who hate God and hate the creation. This is the moment when we start talking back, and we can't do it with falsehood. We can't do it with ugliness. We can't do it with hatred. We have to do it. We have to become the beauty that we know is there. We have to become the beauty of our philosophy and put it into art. The culture, I constantly say this to conservatives, that the culture will be rescued by people who love it. The arts will be rescued by people who love it, love to see them, love to make them, love to experience them. And we have to take that culture back now in order to build a culture of beauty and decency. And then, and only then, we can finally say this.
We're going to win so much. We're going to win at every level. We're going to win economically. We're going to win with the economy. We're going to win with military. We're going to win with healthcare and for our veterans. We're going to win with every single facet.
Zippity-dee-dah, my, oh my, what a wonderful day.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. Yay! You'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore.
I feel pretty, oh so pretty. I feel pretty and witty and gay.
We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
America is on the path to greatness once more, but the fight for our culture is far from over. If you believe in preserving our values and freedoms, it's time to become a Daily Wire Plus member. Exclusive access to my show, 100% ad-free. Premium films and documentaries that challenge the mainstream narrative. Connect with a community of like-minded individuals who stand for truth and liberty. Watch anywhere, anytime, on desktop and the Daily Wire Plus app for mobile and TV. With new content added weekly, there's always something enlightening to engage with. Join the movement today at dailywire.com/subscribe and be part of the cultural renaissance. Klavan Klapbacks.
But if you listen real close, you can hear them whisper their legacy to you.
All right, Klavan Klapbacks at dailywire.com. Klavan with a K, Klapbacks with a K. Write in about anything you want, and we will do our best to answer it. The first email is from Janice Hover. She says, I want to respond to the opinion that you shared about TikTok. You are wrong. Now, just as a pro tip, by the way, anytime you think I'm wrong, you might want to check your work and find out where you miscalculated. But it says, you are wrong. I am 58 and MAGA. TikTok is filled with everyday conservatives sharing their opinions. I see thousands of ordinary people like me sharing MAGA content every day. As far as X, it sucks. All I see is leftist content or conservatives sharing leftist content and complaining about it. I'm curious if you are verbalizing your opinion after trying TikTok or just repeating what you've heard. I have nothing against TikTok. I have a problem with the Chinese owning TikTok. I think I do not want to take away your TikTok. I want to take TikTok away from the Chinese because they are using algorithms to lure young people into perversion, and that's what they're doing with it. And I'm happy it's working for you, and I'd love it to continue. But I think it should be forced out. There's no reason for the enemies of America and mankind to own a powerful social media service. If they're foreigners, we should just take it away from them. I'm sorry. It's like, and again, I don't want to take your TikTok away. I just want to take TikTok away from the Chinese. Austin, writes, Dear Mr. Klavan, master of all things written, there's a question that has been weighing on my mind for the last year or so. Last year, my wife of 5 years and I lost a pet that I had owned for about 18 years. It was difficult coping with this loss, mainly because my wife and I have not been blessed with children of our own, so we can't help but treat our pets like adopted children. My question is this: do you think there is a place in heaven for any other of God's creatures, or will it just be his children and the angels? I've always been taught that animals have no soul, so they will not be with God's children in heaven. Well, I know what it is to lose a beloved pet, and I agree. I think C.S. Lewis talked about this. He said that the love that we have for our pets makes them a part of our soul. And so they sort of sneak in the same way we sneak into heaven hidden behind Christ. I think that animals can sneak into heaven hidden behind us. And I think that as we become part of Christ and that gets us into heaven, dogs and cats become part of us and we love them and we can take them into heaven as well. I think animals are much more complex than people think they are. And so I'm not... it doesn't bother me to think that, and obviously we'll find out when the time comes. I can only tell you my opinion. Ruben, dear Mr. Klavan, teller of truths and writer of stories, I'm an Afrikaner. We are a white minority living in South Africa. We're under 7% of the population. Our government has taken steps to erase our culture, history, and language from society. It has taken steps that would allow it to confiscate our property. Political persecution and violence is a real threat. Should me and my wife flee South Africa, this would mean the loss of everything we have ever known, but my family would be safe and our future children would live life not knowing what was lost. I'm torn between my duty as a husband and my love for my country. I'm scared for what the future may hold. Listen, I can't answer that question because only you can decide where your priorities are. I think in your situation, I would leave. I would protect my family first. I think family does come first. And I think that when a society is going bad, if it goes all the way bad, unless you're in a certain position, you can't fight it from within. You have to go out and sort of talk about it from without. I mean, a Dietrich Bonhoeffer goes home to Nazi Germany knowing that it means his death, but he's also a minister and he's a preacher and he has a voice. If you're not in that position, and you think that your children and your wife are going to get killed, I think in your position, I would leave. That's my guess. I can imagine, like in America, it's a little different. I would be more prone to stay because America's the last best hope on earth, and there's nothing like it. If it goes, we're into the darkness. So that would be a little different, but I don't think the same is true of South Africa, and the history there is, complex, and it is what it is. All right, we're going to member block, which means those of you who are not members will be shrouded in a darkness beyond your comprehension and beyond my capability to describe. It is eternal, it is endless, it is lightless. But here's a suggestion. You can become a member today by going to dailywire.com/subscribe and use code Klavan at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. Then you will get to come to Member Block, after which you'll be plunged into the eternal darkness as well. Members, come on over to Member Block.